to another hashtag Friday Fun edition of Second City Sports. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I ain't seen anybody. You better know by now it's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You find LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, again, IG.
Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms, so Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're not unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion during our 2-hour extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll indoor or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I've given LaKeena full powers to give you dumbos building boot.
Toodles.
But before we begin, shout out to the replay game that's checking us out on the replay on this long Memorial holiday weekend at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube pages. But most importantly, much love to our live game, LIVE Live Entertainment game that's checking us out live right now on our Sports Zone Chicago YouTube and Facebook pages. And here's our motto. Don't you ever forget, whether we talk sports, music, or entertainment, minus the politics, we will provide.
We'll value with the best here on Second City Sports in high definition, I guess. We'll do some sports media news as one of the ESPN's longest running shows says goodbye today. Also, and also some other sports media news as one longtime ESPN sports anchor says adieu. The Blackhawks have finally found their new head coach, and Stanley Cup, updates on the Stanley Cup conference finals, and also the NBA playoffs, as well as the SGA provides his MVP status as he leads the Thunder to a 2-0 lead over the T-Wolves. And can the Knicks bounce back after confident up, if you will, if you want to use it. I'm not using the choke thing. They'll try to tell if they're serious tonight against the Pacers, and so much more in baseball too. We got our buddy Matt Zahn from CBS Chicago coming on in a couple of minutes here to talk some Bears and other stuff. But first, Sid, let's talk about we'll talk Bears first, I guess, since they had their OTAs. They should just finish up OTAs this week, and it's going to be interesting to see what the marriage is going to be, and stuff like that. I mean, we saw Ben Johnson, we're hearing, things that he's kind of more of a hard ass, if you will, when it comes to holding guys accountable and such. But it's going to be interesting to see the Bears. I know people want to kind of make proclamations and stuff like that. I just want a competitive team on the field. I don't care about the other stuff. I mean, if the Bears, come out the gate, great. If they don't, that's another conversation that will be had at some point. But for me, it's just enough with all the talk and stuff and the pomp and circumstances. Let's just get to the football, and the other stuff will fall into place.
Yeah, remember, folks, this is not even training camp yet. So he will get. I'm talking about Ben Johnson. He'll get a real first look at how this team will respond to his tactics once they get acclimated to the playbook and get acclimated to how he runs things. Remember, he worked with the rookies a couple of weeks ago, and they had a slight head start. But with the veterans, he's still trying to get to know these guys, whether their tendencies are, what buttons to push, what buttons what not to push. And let's not forget the coordinators, too. The new coordinators, Dennis Allen for the defense and Declan Doyle for the offense. They got to implement their style of coaching tactics to them as well. So they've taken their orders for Ben Johnson as well. So this is a time for it's a brand new coaching staff to get acclimated to the players and to see what their tendencies are, who's not going to be on this team by the time training camp starts. And there's a lot of new interests here. And so you got to still learn the tendencies of these players. And it's just going to take some time. Even though they're still in shorts and T-shirts, it's still going to take some time. We're not going to really find out the answers to these questions about who's going to be on the scene, who's going to be surprised cuts till we get to training camp in late July, early August.
Well, we got somebody on that can provide a little bit more insight about the what went on at OTAs this week over at Hallis. He is one of the talented sports anchors and reporters from CBS2 here in Chicago. It's been like a long time since we had him on, so let's get him right back on with us. He is the one, the only, the super cool, the fabulous Mr. Matt Zahn. Matt, how are you?
Hey,
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Love the introduction.
Well, we try. So yeah, you were kind of right there in the thick of it, through most of OTA. So tell us kind of like the synopsis of, we know it's like workouts and stuff. What do you think about Coach Johnson's style and how the players are responding to that?
Yeah, so we got to see, usually in OTAs we can see one practice a week. We got to see Wednesday's practice, and the thing that definitely stood out to me was Ben Johnson's intensity. You might have heard it come out when people talk to the media on Wednesday, but he is an intense guy out there. He comes across as this like friendly, jovial guy in his press conferences, but when he gets on the field, you can see how intense he is. And I think agitated might be the right word when things aren't going exactly how he would like. So if the play's not getting in quick enough, if somebody's not doing something right, he's getting up in people's faces, kind of unlike I've seen. Like he was on Caleb Williams. He was in DJ Moore's face. He was in Cole Kmet's face. So this guy is not afraid to let you know when he doesn't like something. As Kevin Byer pointed out, he'll stop plays if he doesn't like what he's seeing.
Yeah, speaking of Caleb Williams, of course, all the pressure is on him this year with new head coach Ben Johnson going to year 2. I'm talking about with Caleb. Of course, Sam Ricochet for ESPN was on both Chicago radio stations last week. Do you think that was it a smart decision for Williams not to address the media about that situation?
Yeah, so first of all, I don't know if it's Caleb's decision or if it's a Bears PR decision. Okay. To me, it seems like this is something Caleb would want to talk about. And to me, it's a bad decision not to have him talk. It just makes the story drag on longer. Because honestly, I think most Bears fans are kind of on Caleb's side a little bit. He had a point. Things haven't worked out very well for quarterbacks in Chicago. You could see why somebody would maybe not want to come back here. And from everything we've heard, once he got here, other than the problems working with, of course, Shane Waldron and a little bit Matt Eberflus, he is kind of all in on being a great quarterback here. So I think it was a mistake either by him or by the Bears PR not to have him talk. Just kind of let's get over this and let's move past it and focus on this new offense and all of that we can talk about.
Now, the O-line is going to be the big question here. Of course, you got all the new guys in that O-line. Of course, Joe Tunney just signed a new 2-year deal, so he'll be on the fold for the Bears these next couple of years. Braxton Jones, there's word that we were hearing different things that whether he might have to move positioning, maybe even Darnell Wright may have to move. So, what do you think is going to happen in that O-line? Will there be some different combinations tried out to see what fits?
I think we'll definitely see different combinations tried out to see what fits. My guess right now is that assuming Braxton Jones can come back healthy, he's just going to be the left tackle, and you're going to keep Darnell Wright at right tackle, and then work in the rookie Trapillo Ozzie Trapillo as much as you can. Kieran Amagaji was the one who was getting the reps with the number 1 unit at left tackle in OTAs, but that's because Braxton Jones isn't there, and I don't think you want Ozzie up there yet. So I think we're going to see a lot of Kieran in OTAs and camp as we try to see what they have in him. But my guess is when we get to the season, it's just Braxton at left tackle, Darnell Wright at right tackle.
Sticking with the offense, Matt, we're focusing on Luther Burden III, of course, one of the Bears' new draft picks. He was injured the other day. How serious is his injury, and do you think he'll be ready in time for training camp? That's obviously the $1 million question.
Yeah.
How serious is the injury? You think he'll be fine for training camp?
Yeah, it's hard to say. Ben Johnson was super vague when saying, when they might get him back. So you don't like to hear that. You'd rather hear something like day to day. Soft tissue, you never know. I mean, all we can really do at this point is hope he's back. I don't really have any insight other than that, soft tissue injuries can linger. Let's just hope they rest him maybe until camp, and then he's good to go by then.
Let's switch over to defense for a second, Matt. Of course, they brought on a veteran D tackle, Grady Jarrett. You got Dennis Allen's new offense. How do you think this Bears squad's going to look? Of course, you've got the various injury issues in the secondary and such. So, how do you think this defense is going to look this year under Dennis Allen?
Yeah, kind of the overlooked unit at this point, isn't it? There's a lot to work with there. I do have still quite a few questions, though. It was great to see Jaquan Brisker finally back out of the practice field, but with his concussion injuries, he is a question back there at safety, and there's not a ton of depth behind him. I think the big thing probably with this defense is what are you going to get out of your edge rushers? You need a bounce back year from Montez Sweat, because he would admit he did not play well last year. I don't know if they have enough rushers right now. That would be my big concern with the Dennis Allen defense.
Matt Zahn of CBS 2 Chicago Sports is joining us right here on Second City Sports, the hashtag Friday Fun Edition, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. See LaKeena hang out here with you, talking Bears and other Chicago sports. Matt, let's stick with the Bears and go back to the offense. We talk about Ben Johnson. Eric Bieniemy, former NFL head coach and now the running backs coach. And I heard that he's been intense on some of those running backs in that running back room. And if you had a chance to speak to him, what were his comments regarding the running back room, regarding the Bears offense in general?
I have not had a chance to talk to Eric Bieniemy yet, but yes, we have seen intensity from him. This is a guy that has been around a lot. I mean, he knows offense. He's been a lot of great offenses. I love this hire for the running back room. We'll see what he can get out of that group. I think that's, as far as the offense goes, that's probably our biggest question right now. He's like, can DeAndre Swift, is he your number one back? Can he be a number one back? What can we get out of Roshan Johnson? And then, of course, the rookie Kyle Monangai. What can you get out of a 7th round pick? I mean, he's looked good so far, but you can't see much from running backs this time of year. That is a very interesting position group, and it'll be interesting to see if possibly Bieniemy can elevate that group, which he may need to.
Now back to the defense here, Matt. Did you see Andrew Billings out there? And if you did, how did he look?
He was not at the open OTA practice on Wednesday. Probably not a big deal. This time of year, it's optional. Lots of times veterans, for whatever reason, will not be there. So I wouldn't read too much into it at this point. If he's not there for the next couple ones, like they have another open OTA this coming Wednesday, and then they have their mandatory minicamp the following week. So if he's not there, then we can be concerned about it. For now, I wouldn't be too worried.
All right, sticking with that Bears offense one more time. Colston Loveland, the rookie tight end out of Michigan State, to much people's chagrin, he was selected with that number 10 pick by Chicago. I know that Ben Johnson was very high on him. That's why they selected him at number 10. How did he look during those OTA workouts? How do you see Ben Johnson using him in this offense for this upcoming year?
I mean, I think they're going to use Colston Loveland a lot. I mean, they drafted him because they like how he fits in this scheme, maybe even better than Tyler Warren. We won't see – he wasn't out there for OTAs. He won't be practicing fully probably until training camp because he's coming off that shoulder surgery. He's around. He's getting the mental reps, as they call them. You'd love to see him out there getting some work in. But as long as he is good to go by training camp, I think you're probably going to be fine. And that's when we'll get to see how they're going to use him. I'm very interested to see – how they use him and Cole Kmet together.
We're halfway home with our buddy Matt Zahn from CBS 2 Chicago, right here on Second City Sports on Sports Chicago. LaKeena, McGee, Cindy Brown with you. Let's switch gears here to talk some baseball, Matt. We'll start with the Cubs. The Cubs are 30-20. They're first in the NL Central. They play the Reds in Cincy starting tonight. And now the bullpen's been a little bit of an issue. They lose. They won the Monday game. They should have won that. They should have swept the Marlins. Yeah. That's a whole. That's neither here nor there because of the bullpen. Guys like Hunter Green's name's been thrown around there perhaps as a potential trade. What say you? What kind of moves do you think Jed will make? Before the trade deadline to beef of that pitching and the bullpen especially.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to make some bullpen moves. Jed just said, it was either this past week or the week before, that he doesn't expect any activity on the trade market until probably late June at the earliest, because teams don't like to give up quite this early, especially with extra wild cards. But yeah, I think the bullpen is where they're going to absolutely have to address, especially with their injuries to the starting pitching. That means your bullpen is more needed and there's not as much starting pitching out there. So I would expect at some point some bullpen arms to be added to this Cubs team. I just don't know if it's going to be happening soon. For now, they're going to have to kind of rely on what they have and maybe getting a couple guys back from injury.
I said this to my co-host LaKeena and Matt before the season started, that this Cubs offense is going to be fun to watch. And so far, they haven't disappointed. Of course, admittedly, I'm a White Sox fan. I was there last Saturday for the Cubs Sox series, and obviously, Pete Armstrong is he is a fan favorite amongst Cubs fans, and rightfully so. I told LaKeena on a couple of shows ago that obviously, if he stays healthy, he's going to be an All-Star this year. Do you think that it's fair to put him as a top 5 candidate right now for National League MVP?
Yeah, maybe a little early for that. Obviously he's got great numbers. He has played, I guess you would say, top 5 MVP like so far this season. I would like to see a little more from Pete Armstrong. But he gives you the defense, he gives you the speed, he gives you the hitting, and now the power has come along. That has been a huge change for this offense, and obviously having Kyle Tucker in there has helped a lot too.
Now, well, speaking of Tucker, I know that there's going to be there's different rumors about that he may want 500, 600 million. It'd be disappointing if the Cubs will at least try to see if they can re-sign him. I know they're not going to agree to a new deal in season, but what do you think is going to happen with Kyle Tucker after the season?
Gosh, that is such a good question. Cubs history tells me probably not signing him. You said that, they'd at least make a competitive offer. I feel like that's what they kind of do every time with these big contracts is like, oh, we made a good offer. Someone else just offered a little bit more. It feels like almost every single time on that, except that when they acquire a guy in a trade, like getting Tucker. So I think at this point, I remain a little skeptical that they're going to sign him long-term because he's going to get a mega deal. Maybe $450, $500 million. And they have been very reluctant to do that. And until, I'm kind of like, show me. Until they've shown me that they're going to do that, I don't really believe they are going to do it.
All right, let's switch it over to the South Side. Matt, I'll be there this weekend in the stands for the Sox and Texas Rangers. Of course, they made some moves yesterday into much of the White Sox fans. Tim Elko unfortunately got sat down. I say that because he hit 3 home runs in less than 2 weeks to get sent down. But Mike Togman and Andrew Benintendi are coming back off of injuries. Of course, you got to see. Yeah, that's Tim Elko Parker right now.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's the reaction.
My dog likes Tim Elko too.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Well, I want to ask you, what are some of your thoughts on first-year manager Will Venable and some of the young players that they have, like Chase Mydrop and Edgar Carroll? Yeah. I like both those guys a lot. They've been improving for this White Sox team so far.
Yeah, I think I just saw that they actually have the same record right now that they did last year. But to me, like this year feels different because at least there are those guys, like Edgar Carroll coming up, Chase Mydrop, Miguel Vargas, like guys that you believe can be part of the future actually playing. I mean, it's still bad right now, like really, really bad right now. But there are at least signs of building towards something, whereas last year they were just flailing. Now, I think obviously the big problem right now is, Andrew Vaughn and Luis Robert are doing nothing. And Luis Robert's playing so bad you can't get anything for him in a trade. Andrew Benintendi's out. Like your actual veterans that are supposed to help these young guys along are doing nothing. So that's part of the reason their offense is just so bad right now. But at least there's some hope for the future, I think, a little bit.
Do you think they'll be able to move those guys by the trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, no. I guess they could trade Luis Robert, but who's going to trade for him right now and give you anything close to what you want? Andrew Vaughn is, I believe in the Fangraphs F4 is the worst player in baseball, so you're not going to get anything for him. As far as trades go for this White Sox team, I don't know. There doesn't seem to be a lot of guys that are left that can be moved. And yeah, it's just a shame. It's crazy how bad Luis Robert is now compared to how good he was for a while.
Yeah, 2021 and 2020 was. It seems like the way this franchise has fallen so fast. It seems like 20 years ago, but that's a whole nother.
Yeah, they were a playoff team.
Yeah, they were. But trust me, now LaKeena knows it's been bad over the last couple of years, but like you said, at least with some of the young players, at least hope is on the horizon. Hopefully, Chris gets the GM gets it turned around. Another team that needs to get turned around and they have their own television issues. We won't get into that too much here, but we'll get to us on the court, and that's the Chicago Bulls. They have the number 12 pick in next month's NBA draft. Arturas Karnisovas said in his end of the season presser, Chicago fans, be patient. Nice message, but he's been here for a few years now. That's not going to go over well with Chicago sports fans, Bulls fans in particular. What are your thoughts on the Bulls, even though they lost for the third year road to Miami in the play-in tournament? Do we see a hope on the horizon for the Chicago Bulls? Do you see at least a surprise trade coming? I don't care where it's from, but what do you see with the men in red on the horizon up there on the west side?
Honestly, I think the team's going to look kind of like they did. I don't see a big trade on the horizon. I don't know what you're going to do at this point. they seem to be like whatever they're doing right now is acceptable. It's, right? They're making the play, and that seems to be good enough. Patience, what a ridiculous thing to ask for. Like, Bulls fans have been patient since the 90s. He hasn't been a good GM. I'm sorry. Like, the moves haven't worked. They just keep being in that middle ground. Like, either go all, you got to just tank. Like, this is whatever they're doing is not working. Being in the middle is the worst place to be in the NBA. He said, I believe it was at the trade deadline when he said it would be worth it to make the play and risk getting a worse draft pick. And like, clearly that's just not how it works in the NBA, unless you're the Dallas Mavericks and they give you the number 1 pick.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's pretty much what happened. That's pretty much what happened. That's pretty much what happened. They trade Luka, they end up getting the number 1 pick. So there you go. Right. There you go. Do you think they could try to maybe get Giannis? I mean, Sid and I have been talking about this for like the last, like, was it 2-3 weeks? Sid, that maybe if you put in Kobe, Matas, and
I would just say I'd be really surprised if the Bulls were able to put something together for Giannis. It just doesn't seem like that. Like, I'm sure Giannis would be fine coming here, but I just don't think they, especially if other teams are, if he's really on the market, other teams are getting involved. Like, say if the Rockets are in it, they just have so many more picks and players, even OKC, but they're going to win the title with the current team they have. So I don't know if they'll even want Giannis at this point, but I would be stunned. Maybe not Luka trade stunned, but stunned if Giannis came to the Bulls.
Last moment or two with Matt Zahn from CBS 2 Chicago Sports. He's hanging out here with us right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago on the Friday edition. Matt, last question for me, of course, the next Olympics, which is 3 years from now in Los Angeles. The National Football League, as I say to LaKeena all the time, it never disappoints to make news, especially during the offseason. It looks like we're going to have flag football for the Summer Olympics. The only problem that I have with this is that the Summer Olympics is in late July, early August, and that's an important time for teams, to build camaraderie, to build chemistry with NFL training camp, and with some of the potential big-name guys participating in this. I think it's going to hurt some teams, and I know Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, is trying to make this game global, but that business-wise, it works where you get eyeballs watching, but as far as your main product and trying to prepare for a season, I think it's going to be a problem. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have a lot of questions about how this is going to work and how many NFL players are, like, especially any veterans, are actually going to want to do this. And then I have other questions about, like, is this an entertaining thing to watch? I mean, they do flag football at the Pro Bowl now. Is that exciting? I don't know. Maybe if they're more into it, like in the Olympics, it would be a little more exciting. But it's a watered down version of football. Like, if you had actual football Olympics, which you couldn't really do, obviously, but like that would be exciting. But I just don't know if this version is something that a lot of people are really calling for. And the timing of it doesn't really work. I feel like there's a lot of details to be worked out. I'm skeptical about this, like, actually taking off and being a good thing with NFL players wanting to be involved in it.
Yeah, because I think AJ Brown said, "Nah, I'm good," but then you have Justin Jefferson said, "Hey, I'm all for. I'd be all for doing it." So it really depends, I guess, who you ask.
Yeah, so those guys do like the fact of playing for the country, playing for the medal. I think some of them would be into it. I just the timing, how exactly it's going to work, and then there's like high level players that just play flag football. Would they be involved? Do they have to be NFL guys? Like, how would we do that too?
Yeah, they got a couple of years to figure that out. Last couple of questions. Well, last couple of questions for me, Matt. I guess we'll start with the Sky, of course, that got blown out by the reigning champ Liberty last night. A lot of struggles under new coach Tyler Marsh. Should Sky fans be panicking now, or will something have to give here at some point? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's probably too early to panic. They have not looked good at all these first couple of games, shooting terribly, turning the ball over a lot. I think if you're trying to not panic, they've played two really good teams. They have a very new team. Basically your holdovers are your two second-year players in Reese and Cardoso. And you have a new coach learning. So I don't know it's going to come together, but I think you have to give them time to get everything together. There's just a couple preseason games, 2 regular season games against 2 of the best teams in the league. Yeah, they got blown out. Let's give it a little time and see what they can do. If it's still looking like this a few weeks from now, then I think you can definitely panic. if they're still turning the ball over like that. And somehow they got to figure out to get their shooting better too.
Also, Jeff Blashill is the new head coach for the Blackhawks. Now, what do you think about the hire? And can the Blackhawks at least get to the point where they can actually, I don't know, playoff contender will be out the question for the next couple of years, but at least get out of the basement at least?
Yeah, I mean, I like some of the young guys the Blackhawks have, and they have the number 3 pick this year. To be like, I don't know a ton about Blashill personally. From what I heard, like the buzz around him in Tampa and Detroit, not super great. It didn't work that great in Detroit. I mean, he didn't have a great roster, but he only made the one playoffs his first year. Kyle Davidson said he's great at developing young players, but it didn't seem to develop to anything in Detroit. Maybe he learned from his first job. We'll actually get to talk to him on Tuesday, so maybe get a better feel of what he thinks. But yeah, it's kind of a wait and see approach. There's kind of nowhere to go but up, I guess. So that's the one thing.
Yeah, GM Kyle Davidson has a lot of work to do. And as I said on our show, Matt, that honeymoon period for him after selected Bedard before last season, that honeymoon period with him is over. Many Hawks fans, including yours truly, you're a nice guy, but it's time to get some things done.
Right, we got to get production out of Bedard and those lads. Like most of the veterans who signed last year, didn't really do anything for them.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, this has been CBS 2 Chicago sports anchor and reporter, Mr. Matt Zahn. Thank you, Matt, for joining us on the program today. Before we let you go, tell us where can we find you on CBS 2 News, and where can we find you on social media?
On social media, I'm at Matt Zahn Sports, mostly Twitter, X, and Instagram. And on CBS, you can find me on CBS Chicago. I'm usually anchoring on Fridays and Saturdays, 4, 5, 6, and 10. And then I'll be reporting through the week as well, up at Bears a lot.
Nice. Let's not wait another what? I think Sid said the last time you were on with us was like in 21.
Yeah, have me back whenever you want.
Okay, excellent. All right, we'll definitely have you back on, Matt. So thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Continue the great work, and we'll definitely have you back on sooner rather than later. We'll say that.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
All right, thank you, Matt. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. All right, Sid. Great stuff from Mr. Matt Zahn from CBS Chicago. Sid, we're going to take a really quick break here. So let's talk some baseball when we come back, as the Cubs win 2 out of 3 in Florida. They're now, of course, in Cincy. Also, the White Sox, held in there for a little bit, but lost 2 out of 3 against
your Mariners. I know what they did. Blah, blah, blah.
We'll also some other baseball stuff too coming up next. LaKeena McGee, City Brown, Second Season Sports on Chicago. Diamond Talk coming up right after this. Why I got it.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome to this special Memorial Day holiday weekend edition of Second City Sports, the hashtag Friday Fun Edition. You're locked and loaded, and we're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, in the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kenny McGee on the Twitter, X, and again, IG.
As we dive into some Cubs, Sox, and the rest of Major League Baseball from around the world, the best and worst of MLB from this past week. If you have any thoughts on those subjects, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Look, we'll get the up on the screen for you.
Let's go to Diamond. We'll talk baseball. We'll start with the Cubs, of course. The Cubs win 2 out of 3 in South Beach against the Marlins. They probably should have won that, swept that series, but that's neither here nor there. Of course, with the bullpen, we talked about with our buddy Matt Zahn just a few minutes ago. Yeah, that is going to be an issue, so they're definitely going to have to address that. But look, you took care of business against the Marlins, and you're going to Cincy to face a red squad that's been up and down this year. Oddly enough, Eli De La Cruz needs just a few, I think like 2 more strikeouts to break Tony Gwynn's record for the most strikeouts in MLB history, which if you think about it, as Hall of Famer, of course, Tony Gwynn, this is only Cruz's 3rd year in the league. So the fact that he's, already on the brink of breaking the strikeout record this early on is a little bit mind-boggling to say the least. But back to this, but yeah, so the Cubs, I think, just keep taking care of business. You gain the game in the Central. You can just look, you're in the kind of the quote unquote soft part of your scheduling, and you can kind of just, try to get 2 out of 3. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, this should be if you get, look, you got a soft part. You play Cincy, twice. Of course, you play Cincy in Cincy this weekend. Then you have Colorado on Monday, through Wednesday. Then you play Cincy again. So this is kind of a nice little way to kind of like, get a little bit of a buffer in the NL Central.
Even though, like you said, they gave away, I'm talking about the Cubs, they gave away the one game against the Marlins early this week. The offense, as we talked about, has came alive in that series, especially with that what that went on Tuesday. James Centurion pitched well. Cade Horton pitched okay in that series finale on Wednesday. And the offense, as I mentioned, came alive. Dansby Swanson is continuing to improve. Seiya Suzuki in the DH spot. Kyle Tucker's bat looks like he is starting to get back hot again after struggling against the White Sox here in Chicago last weekend at the friendly confines. So looks like the Cubs are starting to get it back together. Looking at the pitching matchups for this weekend for the Cubs, you have Matthew Boyd against Hunter Green tonight. Tomorrow, I know that you'll have Colin Ray versus Andrew Abbott. And of course, Sunday's matchup will have Ben Brown versus Nick Lodolo, if I pronounced his name correctly. So, as we talked about LaKeena with Justice still being gone for the year, Shota Imanaka is still on the shelf. You had to have some of these young guys picking up. Ben Brown looks like he's starting to turn it around again. I told you with the starting pitcher tonight and Matthew Boyd, the left-hander, I think he found a gem in him. He's bounced around the league a few times. It looks like he's going to find a home here in Chicago, at least for the rest of this year, obviously. So the Cubs starting pitcher actually hasn't been that bad since Imanaka his hamstring took a turn for the worse a couple of weeks ago. So as long as the offense continues to roll, I'm going to put the pressure on them. They should sweep. And as I told you before the start of the season, LaKeena, everybody thought, the Cubs should be cruising here with that offense after going through the toughest April in Major League Baseball history in terms of the winning percentage of their opponents. They should cruise to the NL Central. They ain't going to have a challenge. Well, the St. Louis Cardinals is knocking on the door. And when and if Cincinnati turns it around, which I believe they will, they'll be knocking on the door too. So these division games are more important. And like you said, LaKeena, if you're a good team trying to take the next level, you take care of business this weekend. I'm putting the pressure on the Cubs to sweep, but realistically, I think they should do no worse than take 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I think this is definitely an opportunity for the Cubs, like I said, to kind of put a little bit of a buffer there. And the pitch has been very solid. I mean, look, the young guys have stepped up now. Can they keep it up? I think that's really the main question. Look, we know that, Tucker's been hitting the ball well. Of course, PCA, I think. You could definitely I'm with Matt. Wait till probably next month before if he keeps up through next month. I think maybe we could probably put him in the discussion for NL MVP. Excuse me. Sayers in the ball very well too. So yeah, they're getting contributions from everybody all around. Now, when you get to the playoffs, it's going to be all about the pitching. So it's going to be interesting to see what Jed does. Before by late next month and go into early July. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I think if the Cubs can kind of just take care of business, take one series at a time. Don't look ahead. I know they play Detroit in a couple of weeks, but you gotta take care of business against this part of your schedule first. Take care of Cincy, take care of Colorado, take care of Cincy again at Wrigley next weekend. Go. I don't know. I guess maybe 7-2 or 6-3 at worst. You should be able to win at least 2 out of 3 in all 3 of those series. So that way you can get set up for that meeting against Detroit next weekend. So in a couple of weeks, I should say. So yeah, just kind of get that going, take care of business, and the rest will fall into place.
One more question I want to ask you about the Cubs before we move on to the Southsiders. Matthew Shaw was recalled to play third base, and you got to see what you have in him. I know he had another bad throw in the series against the Marlins. What are your concerns about Mr. Shaw? Do you think that your faith from the front office will eventually pay off?
I hope so. I mean, I know he's had a couple of bad starts, but I think he's just trying to get into a rhythm. Look, he's new to the majors. This is a new thing for him. So hopefully we can kind of get into a rhythm now. If with a couple more starts, he's still not very good, then we can talk about it. But I think right now, it's just guys this is just a guy, trying to get his get his druthers going and such. So I'm not worried about him just yet.
All right, we'll see what happens with the Cubs at Cincinnati this weekend. Let's move over to the South side, where the White Sox will host the Texas Rangers for 3 games at Sox Park. I'm not calling it that corporate name. You know me by now, for those of you that have been listening for a long time. Your pitching matchups for this series are as follows. Sorry if I got to get up on my screen here in 3, 2, 1. Tyler Mahle against Sean Burke tonight. Tomorrow, Saturday, Jonathan Cannon will take the bump for Chicago. He'll face off against Jack Leiter. Yes, that's Al Leiter's son. So don't at me at that. Do your research. And then, of course, on Sunday, you'll have the Darts Davis Martin against Patrick Corbin. I know on paper that the Texas Rangers are favored to sweep this series. Maybe the Sox could take a game. I don't know. But let's review first on what happened earlier this week against your Mariners. The Mariners won the first game 5-1. The White Sox came back behind. The performance of Adrian Hauser, 6 strong innings, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, only giving up 2 hits as the White Sox won 1-0. Of course, the home run derby that took place in the light rain last Wednesday afternoon. Shane Smith, as I've been begging and pleading for the Sox to give him some run support. They did, but they lost it again thanks to that damn bullpen. They lost 6-5, losing 2 out of 3 to Seattle. LaKeena, the glaring hole in this series for the White Sox is simple: the bullpen. Now, Cam Boozer, I'm one of the few people that I have faith in him that he could be a guy in that bullpen going forward. He gave up the grand slam to Julio Rodriguez on Monday, came back the next night in that 1-0 win in the same situation, got out of a jam. But the starting pitching for the Sox has been okay outside of Shane Smith, who's been excellent. I know he's been knocked around a little bit, but he's still been good. But the bullpen has been terrible, LaKeena. And as we talked about with Matt Zahn in our last segment for CBS Sports Chicago, that offense has been schizophrenic. And now that my guy Tim Elko's been sit down, I know he's going to be back hopefully sooner rather than later. I know the object of the game is to score runs, but I know Andrew Benintendi's back. I know that Mike Tomlin's coming back, but why the expense of Tim Elko, not Andrew Vaughn? This is crazy.
Well, I think Matt Stahl kind of had your sentiments. I would say sentiments when you said his name, but we got sent down. But let's talk about Adrian Hauser for a second. Look, this is a guy that hasn't played in the majors in the since last season. He actually got signed with the White Sox. Earlier that day, came on and pitched six good innings against a really solid offense. So I think he either struck out Rodriguez a couple of times too. So. Great debut by him. Sox debut, I should say, on his, for his part. But yeah, this team with Elko is a little bit weird because only fitting that they would send him down after he actually been really solid, especially he had a solid series with against Seattle. So hopefully, I'm sure he'll be back. I'm sure later this summer. But I think Will Venable is trying to kind of like get a rhythm going. Hopefully they can. We talked about earlier with Matt. I mean, hopefully they can get guys like Vaughn and Robert Jr. to get them going these next 6 weeks, because if not, you're not going to be able to move these guys. In hopes of trying to get some of the value for them. So this is probably what's going on right now. But if Vaughn and Robert Jr. and those guys don't get it together, you won't be seeing Elko for a while. So that's kind of how that's working.
I had the chance to watch some of the CHSN pregame show the other day, and I know Isaac Guillen, who I love and respect, both as a player and as a commentator. And I had a chance to meet him last year. Good guy. Looks good for his age, a golden age of 60. But he said that he thinks that Luis Robert Jr., at least at the plate, is starting to turn the corner. I hope so. If you GM Chris Getz, you hope so too, so you can get a little bit more in the trade value for him than what you can get right now if you put him back on the market. So Luis Robert Jr., we saw a couple years ago, he's a 5-tool player. When he's healthy, he can put it together. But right now, he's not putting it together at the plate. And hopefully that turn will come soon. I know the weather's supposed to be cool this weekend, but I think he can start to get it going. Andrew Vaughn, a nice guy, but I have no faith in him. They should DFA him right now. Chris Getz, what are you doing? I know he's watching the same stuff that we're watching, and you're really not going to get anything for him at this point. You can't get a bag of baseballs from their team store for him at this point. So I think it's just a big waste of time for him. I know Andrew Benintendi's coming back. I know Mike Tomlin is coming back. Both of them off of injuries. I get why those two are coming back, but why are you sending Tim Elko down instead of Andrew Vaughn? This makes no sense to me. Obviously, it has gets written all over with these transactions, but we'll see what kind of fight that they have this weekend against the Texas Rangers. I know Texas is starting to turn around a little bit. I know they had a tough time against the Yankees yesterday, losing 1-0. And let me say this too: it's the return of Jake Berger. I know he got sent down to the minors a few weeks ago, but ever since he's been back, his bat's starting to come alive. Don't be surprised if he has a home run or two in this series in his return to Chicago this weekend.
Yeah, they've actually lost like 5 of their last 6. So, including getting swept by the Yankees this week. So, they probably are looking out for blood. They think they could definitely be right there with the Mariners and the Astros and the AL West. So I'm wondering, like, if this could be, if you're looking at the White Sox, you're thinking, hey, this could be what the doctor ordered for the Rangers. So we'll see what happens in that series. Now, staying with the West, Seattle, of course, I know Julio Rodriguez's lower back's bothering him. That's a little bit of a concern. He did not play yesterday in the opener against Houston, but they lost that one 9-2. But we'll see if they can kind of get that going. Hopefully the back isn't going to be a lingering issue for Rodriguez. So we'll see what happens there. We talked about Houston. Now they well, our buddy Chris Gilman, our girl Christine Mack, her character be her hubby. I know they're in Europe right now, but I know he's been following along. They've won actually 7 in a row, including not only sweeping the Dodgers, but then they swept the A's. And look, I'm not gonna sit here and say that they can, be right there in that the AL West and perhaps a wild card spot. But look, Taylor Ward's playing very well. He had a grand slam yesterday in that wrapping up that series against the A's. He's been really good lately for them. So like I said, I don't know if the Angels are going to be we're competing in that AL West, but at least they're playing hard for Ron Washington, so that's all I can ask for.
Yeah, you just took the words right out of my mouth, LaKeena. Give Ron Washington credit for keeping his guys motivated and keeping some of those young guys motivated too. They're playing hard for him, and they're playing some good baseball. I know Tim Anderson, a former White Sox player, is on the team. I know them. Yohan Moncada had a moonshot of a home run in that series against we call them the Oakland A's of Sacramento on this show. I wish he did that a little bit more here, but that's a whole nother story. But like you said, they won 7 in a row. They get some decent starting pitching, and we'll see if they can keep it up because no one, as you mentioned, no one's taking full control of the AL West yet. I know Seattle's leading it right now. They took care of business against the Sox this week, but Houston's been struggling. You mentioned Texas has been struggling. I think they'll get it together, unfortunately, personally, this weekend here in Chicago. And Oakland, unfortunately, has gone back to their losing ways. So the Angels, they could play 500 ball for the next 2 or 3 weeks. You never know. Maybe they could be right there, but we'll see what happens.
Going off to Central, Detroit, they won 2 out of 3 against the Cardinals this week. They did get shut out in the opener against Cleveland yesterday, 7-0. But even still, this is a rematch of the AL divisional series from last year. It could be very interesting. They may split this series. So, but yeah, Detroit, look, I think, Spencer Torkelson had a couple hits to finish off that series against the Cardinals. I think this is going to be one of those things where the Tigers, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're going to run away and hide, but they've been putting together a nice little role lately. And, Riley Green, of course, we talked about Torkelson. I think they may have to beef up their bullpen a little bit because I know one of their guys, they've been shuffling up the bullpen a lot lately. So, but yeah, I think that the Detroit's kind of being the team that we thought they would be.
Yeah, as I talked about early in the season, I wasn't sure if their offense could sustain this success in terms of creating runs and hitting for power, but they've proved me wrong these last few weeks. You mentioned about Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, who got treated like what Andrew Vaughn should be treated like right now. He got sent down to the minors last year. I'm talking about Torkelson. Came back when the Tigers started their run after the trade deadline. He was one of the main reasons why the Tigers got to the playoffs last year. Now he's starting to hit the ball very well, but you know me, I like their bullpen, and I like their starting pitcher with Jack Flaherty and Tariq Skubal. Of course, Skubal's going to go in the series finale against the Guardians on Sunday, late Sunday morning on Roku TV. But their starting pitching has been solid too. And let's not forget about Javi Baez. He's loving it out there in center field. Now he's starting to pick it up, but just a little bit with his bat. But his defense out there in the outfield has been excellent.
Yeah, he's actually looked really good out there and looks comfortable out there. So, I think AJ Hinch might keep him out there too. So we'll see. How he does. Staying that Central, the Minnesota, of course. Well, the Guardians, they snapped their 5-game losing streak. I should say they've now won 2 in a row. Of course, they avoided the sweep against Minnesota. Of course, they took the opener in that series against the Tigers. Minnesota, of course, they had that 13-game wager that was snapped, and of course they split their series with the Guardians. Of course, one of the games was rained out, so they'll have to make up that game. But Carlos Correa will return. So, and also Buxton's a little bit behind. I know they had that nasty collision last week, so they were still recovering from that. But I think Minnesota could perhaps maybe have something to say about that Central. I know you're not sold on them, but yeah, I think Minnesota could be one of those teams where I think they could definitely be right there, at least for a little bit. I don't know if they'll win it, but they could be right there in that Central.
As long as you mentioned Byron Buxton, Carlos Correa, both of those guys stay healthy, they do have a shot. I know they've been getting some good starting pitching, in particular Bailey Orber and Pablo Lopez. Of course, Johan Duran is their closer in the back end of their bullpen, so he's been on the roll right now. But we'll get to the rest of the schedule coming up, but they have an important series this weekend against Kansas City. You know me, I respect Kansas City. I thought early in the year when they had that losing streak, I was like, I don't know they could duplicate what they did last year, but their offense I'm talking about Kansas City's offense has picked up, and of course their starting pitching is solid. And so for Minnesota, if you want to make a statement, say, hey, we could be in this in the long haul. You take care of business against Kansas City in Target Field this weekend.
Speaking of Kansas City, Salvador Perez, the ageless wonder, as we're calling him, won the lone holdover from the World Series they won a few years ago. He's been playing. He's been hitting the ball very well. Drew Walters has been very solid as well. The Royals trying to getting it going a little bit. They did win 2 out of 3 against San Francisco in the Bay Area. So could they perhaps maybe right there? Maybe we'll see. Bobby Witt has kind of struggled a little bit lately. So, but then of course, Juarez and Perez is many are kind of picking up the slack for him. So, Kansas City, maybe not. Who knows?
Yeah, like I said, they have the starting pitcher was keeping them intact, but the offense has to pick it up here. And you mentioned they did take 2 out of 3. They did take 2 out of 3 against San Francisco in a tough place to play for anybody. So. Maybe they get back on the road, but like I said, on the Minnesota side, Kansas City, important series for them this weekend at Minnesota. So I'm not going to say the division is on the line this early, but you really want to make a statement here, and this is going to be an important series for both these teams this weekend.
Off to the AL East we go. Carlos Rodon, solid outing for his 5th straight win as the Yankees complete the sweep against Texas. And the Surging Yankees have looked really good. They've won 4 in a row and 5 of their last 6, and they 9 of the last 10. And Jason Dominguez, of course, during that series, during the whole since the month started, he has hit 3 home runs in the game. He did that last weekend. He home run from both sides of the plate in the game. He hit a grand slam and hit a walk-off home run. He's the first player in MLB history to accomplish all 4 of those feats in 1 month. So he'll definitely get AL Player of the Month honors when it's all said and done, no doubt. But the Yankees, like I said, the pitch has been really good. They're starting to get it going. Stanley's going to be coming back soon, and unfortunately, Cruz, the reliever, is on the IL now too, so that could be an issue for them in this stretch. But look, they've actually been the Yankees actually been pretty good lately.
Yeah, Cody Belcher, as I was getting ready to say that he's picked it up with his bat too. I had a couple of home runs in that series against Texas. You mentioned their starting pitcher has turned the corner, and don't forget Devin Williams. Devin Williams, I should say that. He was acquired for Nestor Cortez in that trade in the offseason. He was supposed to be their closer, but no more. Aaron Boone made that move early. You're becoming a setup role. Luke Weaver is the closer, and it's been and both those guys have been excellent in their role. So as long as the Yankees can stay healthy and have that offense stay on top of fold, I think they'll be okay. But one team I want to talk about is the Boston Red Sox. I know they took 2 out of 3 from the Mets early this week. 2 questions for you on the table for the news coming out of this series. One, do you think that Juan Soto not hustling the other night, is that overblown because he's playing in New York and he's struggling, or is this has to do with nothing? And number 2, your thoughts about unfortunately, and I do mean unfortunately with a capital U in the series mode, both former White Sox player, both current Red Sox members, Liam Hendricks and Lucas Giolito, both receiving death threats via social media. This is definitely not a joke, folks. It's stupid. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, it's just I'll start with that first. It was just I heard about that. It's just awful that they're both getting the death threats. Look, they're not. Look. These are their first years for the team, respectively. So I think people need to, Red Sox fans need to give them time to kind of acclimate and develop. I know Hendricks. Remember, he's still recovering from various medical issues. So I think people need to have a little bit of compassion for him. I know Giolito has been struggling the last few years. So I think people need to show a little bit of compassion there. So that's just terrible what happened there. Now, what was your other point? Said I forgot.
Juan Soto not hustling during the Tuesday night game. I know why it's big news, because he's playing. He's in New York, but not for the Yankees. But he's playing for the Mets. The Mets have high expectations. He's a $700 million man. He's supposed to set an example for the rest of his teammates, and he's been struggling in terms of his batting average. I thought me personally has a lot to do with nothing, just because he's a new $700 million man and he's playing in New York, even though it's the Mets, not the Yankees. I think he has a lot to do with nothing. You don't get over $700+ million being lazy, folks. You just don't.
Yeah, I think it's just look, he's playing in New York, and look, I think all the stuff that's going on here, I think it's just not. Yeah, it just he hasn't had a very good stretch so far, and of course the Mets. We'll talk about the Phillies in a second because the Phillies have been red hot lately. The Mets have been at 500 the last 10 games. I think that's another reason why people are kind of freaking out about it. If they were where the Phillies are right now, if they won 7 in a row, and look, it just happens. No one would have cared, but since they've been struggling lately, and now everybody cares about what he did, that the hustling thing, like whatever, it happens in a season. You don't want to look. Would you rather he had hustled and pulled a hammy or something like that? So I think people need to kind of towards Achilles, God forbid. So yeah, I think people need to kind of chill on the criticism.
Yeah, and shout out to Ben's manager Carlos Mendoza for trying to put that fire out in that situation. Like, yeah, we talked about it behind closed doors, and we'll leave it at that.
Well, also too, going back to the Red Sox, I know Alex Cora, the manager, got some flack because he went to his daughter's college graduation. I think people need to kind of like just chill with that, because I'm like, okay, you want to see his daughter graduate? Okay, what's the big deal? I don't think he should. He had to clarify why he wasn't there this week, but I think people need to kind of just like, guys, some of these guys are husbands, fathers, sons, brothers. I mean, uncles or what have you. I mean, I think people need to kind of like these guys are still human beings. Like, yes, they're players, but they're human, just like you and me and everyone else.
Yeah, it's not like LeBron James taking up a whole vacation for no reason. He don't have to answer anybody, but that's a whole nother issue. Wrapping up the AL East, the Tampa Bay Rays take 2 out of 3 from the Houston Astros. The Trash Stros, as Sean Sierra will call them on this network. And Baltimore ends their losing streak, but they still lose 2 out of 3 to the Milwaukee Brewers on the road.
All right, let's go to the NL for a little bit here. The Padres have now lost 6 in a row. Don't tell our buddy Herb Lawrence that. Don't tell him that. I know he's not very happy now. Unfortunately, they're the second team in MLB history to have a 5-game stretch where they scored 3 or fewer runs, allowed 30+ runs, allowed 10+ home runs, committed 5+ errors. Yes, on the field they've been terrible. If you saw, they have not been very good. The other team to do it was them back in 1969 in April. That was actually the first year of the history of the franchise. So, should San Diego fans be a little freaked out?
Not yet, because the Dodgers are they're struggling too, and they had, even though they did take 2 out of 3 from Arizona this week, but the Dodgers are scuffling too, especially with their injuries to their starting staff right now. But if you're San Diego, you still have a good enough ball club that you can overcome this, and I think they'll be fine. But if this losing streak continues through this weekend, I think you will have problems. I know some rumblings of what happened with the players only meeting following their 14-0 loss the other night. They should have won that game yesterday. Mm-hmm. But if this losing streak continues through this weekend, through the early part of next week, then you'll have some problems. But right now, you should be concerned, but it's not time yet to jump off the bridge. No pun intended.
To the central, the central where the Cardinals lose 2 out of 3. So the Cubs got a little bit of a cushion there from them. So we'll see what happens. And they got a big series coming up this week. The Brewers, they won their first opener against the Pirates, and they won 2 out of 3 against Baltimore earlier this week. So they're still in it, in the NL here now. The Pirates, we'll talk about them real quick. We talked about the Reds already. The Pirates, real quick. There are some rumors that they may trade Paul Skeens, and he might be on the trading block. What say you, real quick?
Why would you trade him now going into his second full season? Why? I get it in a couple of years if the team's not winning. Okay, you could trade him then, but why now? Why?
Welcome to Pittsburgh for you. The Phillies, of course, they sweep their 4-gamer in Colorado. They're out west, of course, for their break. So now they've been able to take advantage of that and pull. Now they're in first place in the NL East right now. Of course, we talked about the Mets struggles earlier. Atlanta, they didn't have a good week this week.
Ronald Acuna Jr. is coming back though, so they should be okay. This is good news for the Chop Shop.
Yeah, tonight. Yeah, tonight I think he returned. So yeah, because they lose their two. Well, one of the games was rained out, but they did lose their two of their games against the Nats. So, but yeah, help is on the way. So hopefully Ronald Acuna Jr. can give them that spark that they need. Now back to the NL West for a second. The Rockies are off to their worst 50 game start since 1895. No, I'm not kidding. Since 1895, and On that note, on to this weekend schedule for this Memorial Day weekend.
All right, Baltimore, they're playing a doubleheader right now against the Boston Red Sox as part of the 4-game weekend series in Fenway Park. Of course, the LaKeena's Cubs will take on the Cincinnati Reds. Milwaukee will face Pittsburgh. San Francisco will travel to Washington to face the Nationals in our nation's capital. Toronto will visit Tampa Bay. I mentioned Baltimore and Boston again. Cleveland and Detroit in the AL Central Division matchup. The first game of the Apple TV Plus doubleheader will have the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the New York Mets live from Citi Field. That's at 6:10 p.m. The first game of that series. San Diego will take on Atlanta. As we mentioned, Ronald Acuna Jr. will make his season debut for the Atlanta Braves. Of course, the Texans will take on my White Sox. Kansas City will visit Minnesota in another AL Central Division matchup. LaKeena's other favorite team, the Seattle Mariners, will face the Houston Astros, the Trastros, as Sean Seattle would say, in the AL West Division matchup. The second game of Apple TV Plus will have Arizona at St. Louis. That's at 7:15 p.m. tonight. The rest of the schedule as follows. The New York Yankees will visit Colorado. The Miami Marlins will play the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. And Philadelphia will continue their West Coast trip. They'll take on the Oakland Athletics of Sacramento.
Easy for you to say.
Oaklamento.
Yeah. At your national games for this weekend, of course, you got Baltimore and Boston. They'll be on FS1, the Saturday game of the week. Your Fox regional coverage at 6:15 tomorrow. You got Cleveland and Detroit. I think most of us, here in the Midwest, will get that game, while others will get the Dodgers and Mets series on Fox, on the big Fox network. Of course, as has mentioned, Cleveland and Detroit will the final game of there will be on Roku, which will be at 10:35 a.m. Note the start time there, folks. And of course, the last game of the Dodgers Mets series will be the ESPN Sunday Night Baseball game of the week.
No local coverage for Dodgers and Mets. That is a shame. Now, they made a change to that last year when the Dodgers visited Yankee Stadium, and they had the first game, which was on Apple TV, but it was option for a local viewership in both those markets. They didn't do that this year for the Mets. Interesting. Someone didn't check that before they made the schedule. I don't get it, but I'm glad I'm not the commissioner of baseball. I'll leave it at that.
Somebody didn't check that before all that. So but going to this next week, since we'll be off, no show on Monday for us because of the Memorial Day holiday. San Francisco and Detroit, Boston and Milwaukee, Colorado at the Cubs, St. Louis and Baltimore, Toronto and Texas. The White Sox go to Citi Field. They face the Mets, Cincinnati and Kansas City, the Dodgers and Cleveland, Minnesota and Tampa, Pittsburgh and Arizona, Miami and San Diego, and the Yankees against the Angels.
And your Tuesday night game of the week on TBS will feature the Atlanta Braves at the Philadelphia Phillies at 5:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. And for Wednesday on MLB Network, it's the Braves and Phillies at 5:45 p.m. Central Standard Time. That can be seen on MLB Network. And this coming Thursday, Fox Sports 1 will have your Seattle Mariners hosting the Washington Nationals. That's at 8:40 p.m. on Thursday. So that's your Nationals TV schedule for this upcoming week in Major League Baseball.
Also, real quick, Atlanta and Philadelphia, of course, the return of Ronald Acuna Jr. That should be an interesting series. Oakland and Sacramento and Toronto, Tampa Bay and Houston, and of course, like I said, the Washington-Seattle game on FS1. And that's your schedule for this next week in Major League Baseball.
Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2, the curtains will be drawn open. Following these messages, will the NBA playoffs be over? Conference Finals series, both of them will be over by the time we hit the air next week. We had the latest in the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. sports media news, and we'll have our potpourri wherever we can do, almost wherever the hell we want. You stick and stay on this hashtag Friday Fun edition, the special Memorial Day holiday edition of Second City Sports. I'm Sid. That's LaKeena. This is Sports Soul Chicago.
No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports on the special hashtag Friday Fun edition for your long and extended Memorial Day holiday. We're live in 11 color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss LaKeena McGee, which is she. I ain't Sidney Brian, you know it's me. You can follow your shooting on Twitter, X, in the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and again, IG.
We're going to dive into some NBA playoff talk and playoffs and the NHL Stanley Cup playoff talk as well. If you have any questions or comments regarding both those sports extra session for this segment, you could hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get the up of the screen for you.
All right, let's recap last night's game. Sid, of course, newly
do we have to?
Well, just for a little bit. Newly minted
Okay.
MVP. Yeah, just for a little bit. Yeah, because we got to go in order like we usually do. But newly minted MVP SGA's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who joins a very impressive list in Thunder history. Of course, that includes KD and Russell Westbrook. He's the third player from that franchise to win MVP. He got that before the game. So, all the little nice, a great trophy, all the hoopla, I'm surprised, there were no balloons, unfortunately, because that would be messy, but he did back it up with 38 points, 21 from the field. Also, Jalen Williams came in with 26 points, Chet Holmgren had 22 as well. On the flip side for Minnesota, despite Nikolai Alexander Walker 17 off the bench, 32 points from Anthony Edwards. Jay McDaniels had 22. Jay McDaniels, had 22 points, but not a lot to show for. I know Nasri had 10 points, but I think Chris Finch is going to have to fumble around with some of the lineup changes. Julius Randle didn't have his best game. He only had 6 points. Rudy Gobert hasn't showed up for the conference finals yet. Mike Conley Jr., he hasn't either. So I think Finch might have to, shuffle some of his lineup, because if he doesn't, this year is going to end really quick.
And I was going to ask you what type of defense will he scheme up against Shai Gilgeous Alexander? Do you double team it every time he crosses midcourt? Do you try to get the Shai Gilgeous Alexander through some screens? What kind of defensive scheme are you going to have against Shai? Because he's been owning the paint throughout the first 2 games of the series. We know that he's a very good shooter, but he's been getting open. The whole Oklahoma City Thunder team has been getting open, driving down the lane like it's nobody's business. So we talked about Minnesota being a sneaky good defensive team. We know Oklahoma City's top 5 defensive team in the league in terms of defensive efficiency. But Minnesota, as we mentioned, they're pretty good too, especially in the interior. But Minnesota's interior defense has not shown up in this series. And I think I said, too, one of the other keys that I'm looking forward to in this series is rebounding. On the other factor as well, turnovers. 15 turnovers for Minnesota in game 1, 14 last night, which equals 29 turnovers. You got to take care of the basketball. Oklahoma City, they didn't take care of the basketball that great either in game 1. They had under double-digit turnovers last night. I'm talking about OKC. So OKC made the adjustments as far as taking care of the basketball. Minnesota has not done that through these first 2 games.
And the crazy thing is that they've been even with pretty much every other stat. I mean, 3-point percentage. I mean, the team was actually shot the ball better than OKC last night. Really, the offensive rebounding, that's really going to be the thing here. Only 13 for Minnesota, 9 for OKC, 33 defensive rebounds for OKC, 28 for Minnesota. So it's really just, guys got to hit their shots if you're Minnesota. Yeah. So that's really the thing here. And look, it's nothing really OKC. I think you didn't have to do what you do with Jokic. I mean, look, just let SGA do his thing, just try to slow down everybody else and get your guys going. That's what they got to do. And look, Randall didn't have his best game yesterday. I know he was not very happy if you saw his post-game comments last night. Rudy Gobert needs to step it up. So is Mike Conley Jr. They're going back to the Target Center, which I'm sure that place is going to be rocking. But yeah, Minnesota needs to get it going because, look, I mean, Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, SGA. I mean, let them do their thing. But again, they got to get their guys going too, because if not, this is going to end really quick, like I said earlier.
Yeah, like I said, both Randall and Anthony Edwards have to be consistent. You mentioned with Julius Randle not having a good game last night. He had a good game 1. The opposite happened to Anthony Edwards. Struggled in game 1, had a monster game last night. But both those guys got to be on one court to start off with. And you mentioned about Minnesota's role players, especially from the bench. They have no production from their bench thus far. I know Oklahoma City got away with it too the first 2 games, but I think their role players, I'm talking about Oklahoma City's coming off the bench, they'll have to pick it up going to the Lions Den at Target Field, Target Center this coming weekend. But the other fact that I wanted to talk about is the inside play. Isaiah Hartenstein, the former New York Knick, I know his stats doesn't look that great, but he's been contributing, making an impact, especially defensively so far. I know he had 6 points and 8 rebounds last night, but I like the way Chet Holmgren played last night. And I told you that he has to be one of the guys to step up in this series. He stepped up last night with 22 points and 4 rebounds.
Yeah, that's really going to be the thing here for OKC. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like I said, adjustments need to be made if you're Chris Finch. And they got to get Gobert and then the rest of those guys. They got to get going here. And of course, Randall needs to be, both Randall and Edwards need to be consistent at the same time, because if not, like I said, you don't want to be down 0-3. You'll go into game 4. You want to try to at least win game 3 and perhaps see if you can try to tie the series from there.
I'm with you. If Minnesota loses on Saturday at game 3 at home, I think this series is over. So Minnesota has to come out and with new intensity and play a 48-minute game, set the tempo early, be the aggressor like OKC was when they play their 2 games on their home court, and I think Minnesota will be okay. I think Minnesota will put it on OKC for Game 3, and we'll see what happens there. The OKC Thunder lead that best of 7 Western Conference Finals series. 2 games tonight. Game 3 will take place on Saturday, tomorrow, if you're watching live. The Game 3 will be tomorrow in Minneapolis on ABC at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Now let's go to the main entree, the Eastern Conference Finals. We'll preview Game 2 tonight coming up in just a moment, but let's review Game 1 from MSG that took place this past Wednesday. The Indiana Pacers stole Game 1, 138-135. Tyrese Halliburton thought he won the game, given the choke sign, but your foot was on the line, brother. It was a 2-point field goal. Reggie Miller, you got to work an extra session from the TV booth. Looking at this game, LaKeena, it was a good game back and forth. The Knicks had control for the most part of it, but under 3 minutes to go, LaKeena, what the hell happened? You were on 14. How the hell did you blow a 14-point lead with 3 minutes to go?
Well, they were up 7 with about, less than 60 seconds left. They're like 57, 58 seconds. So, yeah, they were able to come back. Aaron Nesmith, that's what happened. He had 30 points, which is a career playoff high for him. And he was 8 for 9 from 3-point range. And that led to the big comeback. Then, of course, Halliburton, kicked in with a couple of big shots. Siakam hit a couple of big shots. Newbert had a couple of big threes as well to kind of started that rally. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know, it's sort of like a microcosm of what the Knicks has gone through this playoffs. I mean, look, this is an Indiana squad that is not afraid to kind of, they'll take it on the chin, but they'll hit you right back. And I know they kind of, got things going there as well. 25 points they scored and they were right there. So they just, of course, Jalen Brunson couldn't miss from the field. He was able to kind of get going. He had 43 points, which was a career playoff high for him as well. But unfortunately, they couldn't hang on. They took a couple of bad shots. Ognobi had a couple of bad shots as well. I know
him and Carl Towns apparently had words with the 30 seconds to go in regulation. Maybe had nothing to do with nothing, but optics is a funny thing. So, but we'll see what happens with those two tonight. But like you said, things started to unravel in regulation. And who do you blame for this, LaKeena? Who gets the most blame pie for this? Is it the players or is the head coach?
I think it's both in this situation because, look, you could have just said, hey, you know what? Look, guys, we got a big lead. Let's try not to, let it go. Don't force shots. Just knock the ball, feed the clock, like as they always say when you get in these situations. Milk the clock, as they say. So that kind of started with that. Hey, Foster, how are you? Nice to see you again, as usual. Continue to support us. But yeah, I mean, it's sort of one of those things where you're like, if you're the Knicks, like this is something that's been a problem. You were able to kind of overcome that against the Celtics a couple of times, especially once Tatum got hurt. Now you're facing an Indiana squad that's not afraid to kind of take it to the chin, and they'll come right back. Also, shout out to Rick Carlisle, who now moves to 11th place all-time playoff career wins as coach. So, congrats to him for that. This is a thrilling win. I'm sure he probably wanted that one, but yeah, I think if you're Tibbs, I mean, this is going to get a little bit heavy because if they don't win this game tonight. Yeah, things are going to get a little bit hairy, with the Knicks. So, yeah, so this is going to be interesting to see what happens, in this game tonight.
What did we talk about as far as the keys to the series on Monday? I said one of them, at least for the New York Knicks, was to guard the 3-point line. They did not do that outside of Tyrese Halliburton's shot, which forced overtime. Indiana shot 40% from 3-point range. Number 2, I talked about taking care of basketball. Indiana did that. They had 7 turnovers. The Knicks had 15. The assists, Indiana 26, the New York Knicks 24. That's all you need to know.
Basically, you kind of covered it there. And also, NBA history, only 2 players have had 20-plus points and 5-plus threes in the fourth quarter of a playoff game on the opponent's home floor. Of course, both with the Pacers. And of course, it was on Wednesday. Aaron Nesmith did it. Also, to the guy who did it before, Reggie Miller, back in 1994. And also, they were both on a Wednesday. So go figure with that. So So yeah, so it's kind of so it's sort of like a microcosm, and I guess serendipity, I guess, if you whatever word you want to use, but I think the Knicks have kind of shown that they've been inconsistent throughout the playoffs, so I'm not that surprised that they blew this lead. I'm surprised they did in the fashion that they did, but it's kind of one of those things where you wonder, like, is it going to get to the point where how much will that linger, as we go into game 2? Because if they show up and they play well and end up winning, it will all be moot. But if they kind of show a little bit of what we saw in those last few minutes and in overtime on Wednesday and they lose, New York fans are gonna be hard. We're already hard to deal with. Now they're gonna be even harder to deal with in this case if they lose tonight.
Yeah, and just to wrap up the game 1 recap, Pascal Siakam has 17 points. I think he'll step up and have a big game tonight. I told you about the role players that I expected to see perform in this series. I'll talk about Indiana first. My guy, TJ McConnell, came off the bench. 14 minutes of action, 10 points, including 4 rebounds. He took care of the basketball. He set the tone for that second unit. And I said, watch out for him in this series. He came up huge with those 10 points the other night. On the flip side, for the New York Knicks, I know Tom Thibodeau technically played 4 guys coming off the bench. He usually plays 2, about 3. But Mac McBride, who's the only player that did something from a point standpoint. But outside of that, you really get nothing from campaign or anybody else. So, as I said on Monday, who's going to be that 4th guy? Who's going to be that 3rd guy to go with Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson? Will it be OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, the defensive stopper? He didn't do anything in game 1. And someone that unsung hero is going to have to come off of Tom Thibodeau's bench to give some production, because if that doesn't happen, this series is going to be over in a hurry. If you're Indiana tonight, still have to make your shots, control the tempo from the outside. On the flip side, for the New York Knicks, you got to be more aggressive. I know Karl Anthony Towns gave you 35. I know Jalen Brunson has done more than enough to keep the Knicks afloat. He had 43, but OG Anunoby, where are you? Mikal Bridges, where are you? And whoever's going to be the unsung hero coming off the bench, where are you? And which means that part means Coach Tibbs, you got to have somebody. You got to give me something and be consistent, because if not, we're in trouble. But for Indiana to win tonight, they had to continue to knock down shots, continue to control the board. So for New York, you're going to have 2 or 3 guys to help out Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns on offensive end. And we'll see what happens. Like you said, game 2 is at MSG. The place will be rocking. Knicks fans are demanding and hard to please. So I think the Knicks will win this game tonight. If they don't, do I think the series is over? Yes and no. Do I think it's over? The Knicks win tonight? Yes. Do I think Indiana will sweep? Should they win tonight? No. But I think that the Knicks will give out a better effort tonight, even the series they won, because going back to the stadium formerly known as Conseco Fieldhouse is going to be murderous row for this upcoming weekend for the New York Knicks. So it is imperative for this Knicks team to get game 2 tonight. If you're Indiana, you already did what you had to do still in game 1, and you didn't play well. So get greedy tonight. If you're the Pacers, for the Knicks, it's a sense of urgency, because you definitely do not want to go down 0-2 heading for the road. So I think the Knicks will come out with better effort, and I think they'll win a close one.
Game 2 will be tonight on TNT and streaming on Max at 7 o'clock. Game 4 of OKC in Minnesota, that will be at 7:30 on ESPN.
Yep, on ESPN. That was Richard's schedule you read off for Monday.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
For Monday.
Yeah,
okay,
Sunday,
Tuesday. Yeah, Tuesday. Game 4 of the Pacers Knicks series can be seen on TNT at 7 o'clock.
And also, wait. Oh, okay. I think we missed it. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. Tomorrow's game game 3 will be on ABC. As I said, already mentioned that earlier. That's why I skipped over that one for Sunday, since you already mentioned that game for tomorrow. Now, Tuesday, game 4 will be between the Knicks and the Pacers. That'll be on TNT streaming on Max. You just see where that'll be by Tuesday.
Yep. Wednesday at 7:30 on ESPN, Game 5, if necessary, of the Oklahoma City, Minnesota Timberwolves series of the Western Conference Finals. Game 5, if necessary, that could be seen on ESPN on Wednesday at 7:30.
Also, Thursday, if necessary, the 29th, Game 5 of Pacers and Knicks. I think those will go to Game 5. I don't think it's going to be a sweep. So,
I think so too. I think so too.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
be the Pacers
we'll have a
sweep
Game 5.
Yeah, 7 o'clock on TNT and streaming on Max. And that's your schedule for this weekend. This whole week in the NBA playoffs.
All right, you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. LaKeena here with you. We have a couple minutes before we have to break for the bottom of the hour. We'll talk about the Chicago Bulls, which is a hot second here. As we mentioned with Matt Zahn last hour in our interview with him from CBS to Chicago Sports. What do you do if you are Arturas Karnisovas? I know that it's not as deep of a draft as we all thought, that many people have thought. But what would you do with that number 12 pick? I'm sure you saw this too. Rumors of trading that pick for Jonathan Kuminga. Nice player. He'll get some extra playing time here, but okay. I know I heard Stacey King, Bulls TV analyst, said on his podcast, I believe it was last week, that he's still a believer in Patrick Williams. Okay. Obviously, he knows more than we do, but he's entitled to his opinion. And we talked about the trade with Giannis, but the Bulls don't have enough draft capital for him. I know I heard some people say, "Oh, Kevin Durant." No, he'll get extra butts in the seats, but with that current TV deal, which I'm not going to go into, I'll leave that alone. But he'll get Kevin Durant will get a few seats, butts in the seats at the United Center. But he's shown that he's broken down over the last couple 3, 4, 5 years. What do you do if you're AK Mark Eversley at this point? I know the Ryan sources, they're satisfied as people come through those turnstiles, but real Bulls fans, they're not happy with being stuck in the middle. They're not.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Like, I know, Kobe White's name has been floated around as perhaps maybe a potential trade, but for what and for who? I don't think that's gonna be enough. I know some teams. I know the Magic have they need a point guard and point shooting. Portland, they need somebody to complement Simons. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I know Atlanta, they've been floating around as well for some of that. I just don't know if you're going to get an equal value for him, if you go to any of these teams. I know the Mavericks, but I guess if you want to trade the number 1 pick, I don't think they're not going to do that. So it's just like, it's kind of one of those things where you're just wondering, like, what's gonna happen here. I don't think we're going to see any moves, the next few months. And of course, I know our buddies from CHGO Bulls have kind of discussed a lot of those rumors. Basically, our buddy, the other Matt Peck has basically said, F off, that's not happening. But, it's going to be interesting if there is going to be, it's going to be, if the Bulls do anything. I don't think they will, because they don't have the capital for it. Because basically, you're basically going to be trading your one of your best players for no one else. So what else do the Bulls have, that you're going to get equal value for Kobe? I just don't see it.
I don't see it either. And let's not forget, I'm going to ask this question multiple times between now and the end of June when draft night arrives. But let's not forget a veteran center, Nikolai Vucevic, will be entering the last year of his contract. And wherever direction the Bulls are going, and you figure that he'll be moved, will the Bulls get more than what bite more? Will get more than they could chew in trading Vucevic? Probably not. Now, is Vucevic valuable to a few teams? Yes, because he can shoot from the outside. He's still scoring inside, and he has that range. But let's be real, LaKeena. The true assets they have, you mentioned Kobe White and Matas Buzel. That's where you start from. Yes, you can get something for Vucevic where he's going into the last year of his deal. But outside those three, I don't see the Bulls really doing anything before draft night. Now, I'm going to ask this question right now, and I know I'm going to ask it. I'll try not to ask it too many times, but it looks like I might have to ask it every other show between now and draft night. Do you see Nikolai Vucevic being traded before or right at draft night?
I don't see it. I don't see it happening. I really don't.
As of right now, I don't either.
Hey, goodness. Okay, so and back to the middle we go here for the Bulls. Now, speaking of, as we go on a quick break, of course, we'll do some Stanley Cup. Will we see one of these conference finals and a sweep? We'll see what happens here. Some big changes to college football playoff seedings, and of course,
no.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, hold on. So we'll talk about that in a minute here. Okay. And also sports media news, as one of ESPN's top-rated and longest-running shows bids adieu. today. So we'll talk about that and so much more. LaKeena McGee, Sidney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Our Sports Potpourri segment coming up right after this.
Potpourri!
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I need for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the hashtag Friday Funk edition on this longest day Memorial Holiday Weekend edition. You're live loaded in real life in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's LaKeena. This is our Sports Potpourri segment, our last segment of the show for today and for this longest day holiday weekend. If you have any questions, comments, or any of the topics we discussed on today's show thus far, you can definitely hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. LaKeena will get that up on the screen for you. But first, if you want to follow yours truly on these social media streets, you can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find LaKeena McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
All right, LaKeena, let's do that hockey. Let's go over the Eastern Conference Finals first. As last night, as the Florida Panthers shut out LaKeena's Carolina Hurricanes by the score of 5-0. The Carolina Hurricanes now trail that best-of-7 Eastern Conference Finals series. They're down 0-2. As we said, LaKeena, it was going to be a goal. Someone's going to have to steal a game from the goaltender spot. Sergei Grabowski did that last night. Check this statistic out. In the last 4 road playoff games for the Florida Panthers, they outscored their opponents 22-4.
Yeah, they're the first team in NHL history to have 4 road wins by 4+ goals in a single postseason. So a little bit of history made there. Sam Bennett was the star of the game. He had 2 goals and an assist there. Makachuk, of course, kicked it with a goal and an assist as well. So yeah, so it was basically all Panthers all the time, basically, and it just wasn't. The Frederick Anderson did not look good for the Hurricanes. I know. Brendan Moore made the switch, but Kucherov, but he didn't do any better. So but yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm not worried about the Panthers. I mean, yeah, but about the Hurricanes. But the Panthers just showed you why they are the reigning Stanley Cup champions. I think they showed you that. Seth Jones actually had an assist with one of those goals as well.
Take that, Blackhawks.
Yeah, well, yeah, he'll tell you he'll tell you that himself. But yeah. But it's been a total team effort there over here. The Hurricanes, they just got to get their guys going, and unfortunately, they haven't been able to do that. I know Taylor Hall. I know he's struggled these first couple of games for the Hurricanes, and it's just they got to get their guys going because if not, look, the Panthers basically put you on the ropes, taking both your home games. So if you're the Panthers, you need to get back. Brendan Moore has to get back to the drawing board because. If not, they're gonna make quick work of this, and I don't think Carolina wants to do that. And I know Brendan Moore will not be very happy about it either.
We talk about doing the little things in the playoffs that makes teams win. Special teams, the penalty kill for the Panthers, 3 for 3, which means that your Hurricanes were 0 for 3 with the power play with the extra man advantage last night.
Don't remind me. Ugh.
Yeah, Florida was 2 of 2 with their man advantage, and in block shots, Florida 19. Carolina 17.
just brutal. Yeah, the defense of the Panthers that they've just been stellar these first couple of games for.
And that's where Carolina excelled, but it's been Florida these first 2 games of this series.
Yeah, so they definitely got to try to see if they can get it together here because if not, like I said, this series will end quick. Now game 2 of that'll be tonight will be the Western Conference. Final between Dallas and Edmonton. Of course, Dallas took a 6-3 winner in game 1. It's while scoring 5 goals in the third period. Mio Heiskanen, started the charge there. Of course, just not even 30 seconds in, a little over 30 seconds into that third period. And that kind of, snowball from there. Of course, Draisaitl, of course, started the scoring. But, yeah, Chris Knoblauch needs to kind of see if he can make some adjustments because, you don't want to go back up to Edmonton down 0-2. You just don't. And he knows that.
Yeah, the Edmonton has been very good, especially on the road. But Dallas took charge of that third period the other night. And Dallas has been winning a lot of ways during this tough playoff stretch. And the other night in game 1 was no different. Check out these statistics here. Face-off wins, 41-25, Dallas. Power play opportunities, Dallas 3 of 4, Edmonton 1 of 3. As we said before, special teams is very important, especially at this time of year. And then block shots, 17-15, Dallas.
Yeah, Jake Oettinger had 24 saves for the Stars. So yeah, that kind of started the kind of like the trend there. So yeah. I mean, for game 2, I think if you're Edmonton, you want to look. You try to send a message early, but you just couldn't on. So you got to try to the thing is to try to adjust your defenses. Your power plays. I think that's going to be another thing here for in this whole series. I know that they were 1 for 3 in power play, so they weren't bad, but Dallas was 3 for 4. So that kind of, especially those 2 of those those 5 goals where of course it was all Dallas after that. So they need to get it going there and perhaps be a little more aggressive because if, like I said, you don't want to be down 0-2 going back up to Edmonton. So Draisaitl's got to get it going. McDavid, you didn't really hear from him too much in game 1. So we know he had an assist in Nugent Hopkins' second goal there, but he needs to get it going there and be a little bit more aggressive try to take shots and stuff. So that whole thing needs to kind of get it going now. As far as Dallas, it's been a total team effort to try to, Tyler Seguin. I think he has to, try to keep it going. So yeah, this is, I don't want to say it's a must win for Edmonton, but I think this really they really need to be more aggressive, even more aggressive than they were in game one.
Yeah, aggressiveness is what Edmonton's theme should be in game two going into tonight. Cut down on the penalties, which gives the other team man advantage opportunities. Dallas has 6 power play opportunities, 7 power play opportunities. Edmonton 7. Edmonton has 7 penalties, I should say, which gave the Stars a chance to do what they did in the third period. So cut down on the penalties if you're Edmonton. Number 2, get aggressive. You gotta have to play a tight defensive game. You may have to send a message early with a big hit and to let Dallas know, well, you were in for a long series. Yeah, we can score, but we can dirty it up as well. You got to play smart, but it's got to be a physical game. And number 3, create traffic in front of the net. And that's how most of these goals get scored in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You got to create traffic in front of the net, create multiple scoring chances, and get the goalie off his game a little bit. And if you could do that, I think you'll be okay if you're Everton. On the flip side for Dallas, just keep installing your speed game. Make Edmonton play off their heels if they're not doing it physically, especially early. And then we'll see what happens. As I said, coming to the series, this could be an offensive series. We saw that in game 1. Your boy had his prediction early, is off and running early, but I think Edmonton has to play that defensive type game tonight. Go into the corners, get the puck, dump and chase it, and be a little physical to start the game to let Dallas know that we're not gonna let you play your salad game on your home ice. You got to play our salad game.
Oh yeah, so it's going to be interesting to see like if that style can kind of get it going here. So yeah, I think aggressiveness is going to be key. But like you said, I think if you're Edmonton, you want to try to get Dallas to play your style of ball. Perhaps maybe you'll try to slow it down a little bit so that Dallas likes to play fast. So, and I know Edmonton does too to some extent. So yeah, I think if you want to try to be more aggressive and be more physical defensively, I think this should be okay. But if not, yeah, this could be another long series for Edmonton.
Yeah, we'll see what Dallas Stars head coach Peter DeBoer does what kind of adjustments that Edmonton makes, because he's one of the best coaches in the league and making adjustments back from his opponents. Of course, all home teams get the last line change, so we'll see what happens again tonight in this series. Of course, as you mentioned, tonight's Game 2 action can be seen on ESPN at 7 o'clock with the Dallas Stars having home ice, leading that best-of-7 series in the Western Conference Finals 1-0.
And Game 3 of the Carolina-Florida series in the East. Hopefully, Carolina could perhaps maybe cut into this lead. That game will be on TNT, True TV, and streaming on Max.
Sunday afternoon on ABC. I'm glad to see ABC having a Sunday afternoon hockey game. It'll be the Dallas Stars visiting Edmonton in Game 3 of that Western Conference Final Series from Canada. That's this Sunday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, only on ABC.
Game 4, hopefully this won't be a clincher here. Carolina and Florida, 7 o'clock on Monday, Memorial Day on TNT, True TV, and streaming on Max.
Tuesday, Game 4 of the Edmonton-Dallas series will be on ESPN starting at 7 o'clock, live from Edmonton, Alberta in Canada.
Also, Game 5, I think this will be necessary, but hopefully it will be necessary. Of course, Florida and Carolina, they're going to be back in Charlotte, should this game go into 5. Again, True TV, TNT, and streaming on Max.
And on Thursday, Game 5, if necessary, which probably will be, home ice will be back on Dallas' side as Dallas will host Edmonton for a potential Game 5 in that series. If that game takes place, it can be seen this Thursday at 7 p.m. on ESPN and ESPN+.
And that's your schedule for this entire week in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. See LaKeena hanging out here with you. We still have less than 15 minutes left of this, of this extravaganza we call #Friday Fun. Happy Memorial Day to all of those that celebrate. Of course, we'd like to thank our men and women serving in our armed forces. Currently, we'd like to salute our soldiers that served in our armed forces in past years, keeping our country safe. So, folks, those of you that are enjoying the weather and barbecue, remember what this holiday is truly all about. It's not just about barbecuing and drinking and goofing off. Pay respect to a soldier in your family and those folks all around. Let's get back to sports, LaKeena. We talked about the Chicago Sky early in the program with our guy Matt Zahn for CBS Chicago. Colin Mills, Layla Rahimi, and Alyssa Bergamini made their debut last night on 670 The Score. The first of 7 games being broadcast on the radio on 670 The Score. Did you get a chance to listen to it? And if so, what's your review?
I listened to a little bit. I mean, they sounded great. I know people forget that Layla actually did a little bit of game analyst when she was in college at North Texas. So this is sort of like a, kind of like a homecoming for her. I know she hasn't done it in a while, but she sounded good. Kylan Mills, I mean, she's been doing this. I like to say we have something to do with her rise to stardom. Maybe it's just a little bit.
Just a little bit, right.
Everywhere lately, but yeah, she does great, doing play-by-play. She does, play-by-play for both women's basketball and women's soccer. I know she played soccer in college too, especially. So she was great. Alyssa did sideline for them, and I wish they had a better game to talk about because that was just a But yeah, they sounded good. Yes, I thought the production was really solid. I know they're going to be doing 6 more of these games on The Score, so this could help a little bit. But they gotta. Hopefully, they can, as Matt said, hopefully they can get it back going because look, Chicago loves winners here, and if this isn't going to be a good season for the Sky, yeah, people are going to be tuning out.
Sorry, my signal went out a little bit. Just wrap up your point, what you said for the last minute or two. Sorry, my signal got messed up.
Yeah. I mean, I think they now have, I think, like the worst 2-game stretch point differential for us for any team in WNBA history. So I know we love winners here in Chicago, but if they don't, get it going here, people are going to be tuning out on this. Yeah, those folks, those seats in the Wintrust are going to be very empty.
Yeah, you definitely do not want to see that, especially with the players and the talent that they have on this roster. I know the next broadcast for Sky Basketball on 670 The Score will be 2 weeks from tomorrow, Saturday. It'll be the Chicago Sky hosting the Indiana Fever, I believe, in the WNBA Commissioner's Cup. I believe that game will be at the United Center, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, it will be.
And that's going to be treated like a Super Bowl NBA Finals type atmosphere and rivalry. So Wintrust Arena, I believe, holds between 10 and 12,000. Of course, the United Center holds between 22 to 23,000, folks. So we definitely cannot wait for that.
All right, this is Second Season Sports on Sports LaKeena McGee, Steve Brown with you. A little NFL here for a bit here, Sid. The tush push lose as the proposal to ban the play fails by 2 votes. Of course, the Bears actually was one of the 22 teams that voted to ban it. Of course, the Eagles, of course, I know they were happy about that. The Packers tried to kind of revise their proposal, trying to say, it's because player safety and blah, blah, blah. Well, unfortunately, that didn't work. And they actually play Week 10 on Monday Night Football. So, yeah, that means going to, 22-10. How ironic that in the divisional playoff, that's the exact score. So, go figure with that. But, so, what do you think about it? Do you agree with the decision and whatnot?
I agree with it to keep it for at least 1 more year because, as we talked about before, you could get hurt on any play. You could get hurt on a non-contact play, especially in football. It happens all the time. It's a nasty, ugly side of the sport, but it happens. I found it interesting that I know Jason Kelsey, who's retired, representing the Eagles, and Jeffrey Loria, the owner of the Eagles. I know why he did what he did, but for 30 to 45 minutes giving a speech on why they should keep it. I know why he did it, but I want to give him no longer than maybe 2 minutes, let alone a half hour, a 45-minute speech. But I digress. But LaKeena, here's the thing: if you don't want it in the league, stop it. Stop the damn play. Stop the damn play. And I kind of heard this from Adam Hogue from CHGO the other day on their Bears podcast. I'm trying to paraphrase what he said. He said, "Don't be surprised that the NFL tries to manipulate what the Eagles can and cannot do with that play, whether it's a false start or illegal procedure or illegal substitution, something into that manner. Don't be surprised that they try to, the referees have tried to quote unquote poke the bear and not letting the Eagles run that play as successful as they have been running it the last couple of years."
I'm sure they know that. I'm sure Lori has already told Nick Sirianni and the rest of that coaching staff to kind of like be prepared for it. So I'm sure they're gonna they're gonna find ways to kind of like move around that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, just a silly vote. But I digress. Now, Fred Warner, the All-Pro, the 49ers have agreed to a new deal with him. So $60 million for 3 more years and about $38 million guaranteed. So they're finding the money, to pay these guys. So yeah, so now they got a little bit of a cushion here, of course, with Brock Purdy and his new deal, George Kittle and his fresh paper. So they've got a little bit of a leeway here. It's going to be a lot of new faces in the 49ers. They got a quote unquote easy schedule. So we could be seeing the 49ers be right back up there in the NFC West this coming season, I should say.
Yeah, this was we get rid of Nick Bosa, right? He goes off to Buffalo. You have a little extra money for Fred Warner. As I talked about him on this show the last few years, he's one of the best underrated linebackers, in my opinion, in the league. He covers his space very well. He also can create turnovers, and he can give you some vicious hits as well. So he's that prototypical linebacker that you need in today's NFL. So I'm glad he got rewarded with that fresh paper, as you say.
Also, some good news for Lions fans. Defensive end Aiden Hutchinson has been clear for a full return. So, the good news there. Of course, you got to think that was a part of why the edge rusher, unfortunately, he injured his leg injury had a leg injury last year in the playoffs. So, right before the playoffs, I should say, and unfortunately, that pretty much killed their playoff chances. But he does get the good clearance. He will be able to practice. I know they got OTAs, coming up, so he will be able to practice. So this is good news for the Lions.
Yeah, Aiden Hutchinson will make that Lions defense better, but they're going to have that challenge just for this upcoming season. They have a whole new coaching staff under Dan Campbell, and with the Bears assembling, hopefully, if you're in Chicago, to greater heights. Minnesota is going to come back down to earth a little bit. Green Bay is still there, so Detroit's competition is going to be tougher next year. Yes, Aiden Hutchinson will help their defense, but they're going to have some adjusting to do as well, as I mentioned, with the whole new coaching staff. And speaking of Detroit, LaKeena, I want to get your take on the vote to keep the division winner having a home game, because we've seen in recent years that the division winner, especially from I believe the NFC South, they had the worst record of the teams that they hosted, but they got the home game because of them being a division winner. The NFL says, we're keeping that rule. Deal with it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting though, because if you do away with that, you might as well do away with the division. So, I know,
and that's not happening anytime soon.
Yeah, so I know it's weird that a team is like 8-9 or 9-8, they get to host a divisional round game. Whether
the wild card,
if you don't, wild card. If you don't win your division, if you're like 11-7 or something like that, you get to go on the road. So but yeah, unfortunately, this is sort of the case here. But I think that the wild card round, I think that's really going to be interesting to see what happens. But yeah, we saw a lot of upsets and such. So yeah, it is what it is. So that's not changing, of course. It could change if it goes to an 18-game schedule. I know they're going to keep that rule in their back pocket. So, but yeah,
I think that's going to happen within the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be the thing here. Now they tabled it for now, but I think once it gets to 18, you'll see what you might see that.
Yeah, and remember last year Minnesota had a great season. I believe they won 14 games. They had to go, even though it was in Arizona because of the wildfires, they had to go on the road to play the Rams last year.
Yeah, so like I said, we may not hear the last of this particular rule proposal. Once it gets to 18 games in the next few years, like you said, yeah, we may see this rule actually, pass. So we'll see what happens with that. Now, so sad news. Colts, the very outspoken Colts owner, Jim Irsay, passed away on Wednesday. He was only 65 years old. And, just a very outspoken, he was a big football fan. You saw him, all around the locker room. He was kind of like Jerry Jones, but he kind of, got a little bit there, but he kind of like, stepped back a little bit and let the people do their thing. So he's, I know Peyton Manning, I know he did an interview. He's right. I think he said that he made India a football city, which he did. So with all the great moves, winning 2 Super Bowls during that time, a lot of Hall of Famers and such, with Manning and Harrison and Reggie Wayne just a couple of years ago. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the team, because he has 3 daughters. So that's going to be interesting to see, like, if and the ex-wife, their mothers. So you wonder what's going to happen with the future of the team there. But yeah, I know they're going to be doing a lot of stuff honoring him. I know T.Y. Hilton, of course, the talented wide receiver. I know he posted something there as well. So yeah, someone that will definitely be missing in around the NFL.
And let's not forget that he stood by Chuck Pagano's side when he was going through cancer back in 2012. And of course, Pagano survived that, thank goodness. And of course, wanted to bring out a little history lesson. Remember, the Colts moved to Indianapolis prior to, I believe, the 1983 season. Remember, they moved in the middle of the night. Remember, there was no social media. Cable TV was in its early stages. You had no cell phones, no internet. And you didn't have any of these advanced media like you do now. So they really caught people off guard when they moved to Indianapolis. I know it wasn't a popular move by at the time, especially for the folks in Baltimore who loved the original Baltimore Colts. I know they got another franchise back for somebody else, and of course now the Baltimore Ravens. But it was not a popular move at the time. They struggled through the first. The later half of the 80s. And, of course, they got good in the mid-90s with Jim Harbaugh and, of course, Marshall Faulk. Then they reloaded again. We mentioned with Peyton Manning, had some of those future Hall of Famers on their squad and bringing home a Super Bowl. So, and they had Andrew Luck for a short time. But, yeah, Irsay did make Indianapolis a football town.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah.
In a basketball state.
Yeah. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with the ownership there. I know his oldest daughter has been, she's kind of like more involved in the football stuff among them, Carly. So we'll be interested to see if she kind of takes the reins and things like that. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, they're gonna be honoring a lot over the season, over this next season coming up. So yeah, just our thoughts and prayers go out to the Colts, to their family and the Colts organization.
Yes. All right, a couple of other media nuggets before we jet out of here for this long Memorial Day holiday weekend. The NBA on NBC has added a new commentator. His name is Mr. Brad Daugherty. He's still going to be doing his duties for the Cleveland Cavaliers for FanDuel Sports Ohio.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, really. Yeah, he's a great analyst, and we saw him do it a couple of times back in the mid-90s, going to like the early 2000s before he got into NASCAR and other business and such. So and I know Vince Carter. I know they hired him a couple of weeks ago. We always going to be doing the studio stuff with Carmelo. So Anthony. So I guess they are kind of bringing on some of the old guard, if you will, to kind of bring that back. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens here. But another thing here about this, but apparently we got some details on what Michael Jordan's going to do. He's basically doing a lot of essay type stuff, which we all said he would do. So, yeah. So, he's going to be doing that for like 3 or 4 times this season.
I think Scoop Jackson, friend of the show, could help him do that.
So we know he's not going to do any analyst work or anything like that, studio stuff. So we know this is probably what he's going to be doing. So and he's going to be paid like $45 million. I guess that's the rumor. So I guess finesse the NBC from that money. But okay.
Yeah, Mike's a great businessman. So shout out to him. If I have that superpower to do that, I'll do that too.
All right, now college football, real quick. College football playoff. They made this news yesterday, and I think it's hilarious. They actually are going to move straight to the seeding model with this coming season, rewarding the selection committee's top 4 teams with the top 4 seeds and a first-round bye, which means conference championships really won't mean much. Even if it did win a conference title, it will be that regardless. So the conference champions will get automatic bids, but the seeding will be based on rankings. This will be the final year of the 12-team playoff with they'll replace this, in this coming season with 26 playoff. So if that were the case, then that means that Texas and Penn State would have received first-round byes. Boise State would have dropped from 3 to 9. Arizona State would have went from number 4 to number 11. And also Oregon would have played Indiana instead of playing. That's another, but I digress. So I know people want to say this is basically a Boise State rule. No, this is an Oregon rule. Because Oregon, like I said, got screwed, in the seeding system, even though they did win the Big Ten conference title.
What I liked about the playoff from last year, the conference championship meant something. Now you want trying to take that element away or minimize it to the lowest common denominator. LaKeena, why do we people in society, especially in sports, make the simple things so damn complicated? Why? Maybe I'm missing something. I don't know.
Money, Sid. You and I both know it's all about money. Money. They make things complicated.
I'm like Tyrese right now. What more do you want from me?
Oh, brother. All right. If you remember that song from way back when, folks. All right. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. So you could yeah. So that'll get going right after after this season.
All right. And one more note before we close out. NBC Universal is the leader in the clubhouse to take over ESPN Sunday Night Baseball package for next season. I think they'll get it eventually.
Yeah, they've canceled a lot of their primetime shows, so yeah, they make room for NBA. Sure, why not? Bring on the baseball. They haven't done baseball, I think, since the late 80s, early 90s. So
yeah, I'm talking about full time. Yeah, I know they did it a couple years ago with Peacock with that early morning, Sunday morning, which Roku is doing now, but they haven't had it full time for a whole year since 1989.
Yeah,
I know they did a couple with remember the what's that network? The baseball network foolishness with ABC before Fox took it over in '96, which went terrible. But haven't had it full time since 1989.
Well, I think most of those games will end up being on Peacock anyway. So I think this is probably what's going to happen here. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if ABC gets that package.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
Well, Around the Horn, of course, they're going to have their final episode tonight, later today, I should say, in a couple hours now at 4:00 on ESPN. And just, how the show has kind of came about. I know, shout out to Bill Hofheimer, who does great work with their PR on ESPN. He's been doing it forever. He does a lot of their, their sports and their original shows. Now he pulled up all the all-time panelists. There's like I think there are about 80 of them, and so some of the various people that have been on the show over the years and whatnot. 61 people, have appeared on there, and of course Tony Reali took over because we knew Tony Reali. We was just good old stat boy on PTI. We didn't even know his name. Yeah. And so now of course we'll see what happens. I know there are some rumors that he might go to NBC, there, but. I think that I know he's kind of kept that close to the vest, so we'll see what happens from there. But it's definitely the end of an era for ESPN, because I think Around the Horn, I think, really kind of changed the way what sort of like these type of shows have become.
Yeah, and also too, ESPN is responsible for what we see here on not just on YouTube, on our televisions as well, with the Embrace Debate concept. Of course, we know about First Take. We won't get into that. And I know FS1 is really kind of taking over that element with their shows, with the Breakfast Ball, with our friend of the show, Danny Parkins from Chicago, leading the way on that show. Of course, you have not Speak for Yourself anymore, just Speak. Get rid of the main host. I'll leave it at that. Don't add me on why I said that, but that's a whole nother show. And of course, you got First Things First. They're on every day for 2 hours. But, those shows, like you said, Around the Horn and PTI really changed the way we view sports, television, and we embrace debate. Now, has it gotten some of the other shows I mentioned, have they gotten off script at times? Yeah, but the way we talk about sports, the way we debate sports, changed forever with Around the Horn. I'm definitely going to miss that show.
Definitely going to be interested to see what happens as we go on down the line here. But I'm kind of interested to see what show's gonna take over that slot. I know Pete Schrager, who just joined ESPN. I know there was that that NFL show that he's gonna do will probably be the show that eventually replaces Around the Horn. And we know there's not gonna be an hour of PTI. I know Mike Wilbon already kind of put a kibosh on that about a month ago. So. Yeah, we'll see. But yeah, definitely the end of an era here for a show like that. We probably will never see a show like that ever. But if you can tune in and support today. And I'm sure they're going to repeat it too at various times over the weekend.
And one more quick note: Scott Hansen will return to NFL Network, and he'll be the host of NFL Red Zone.
All right. I can't picture anybody else doing that. I think he might have made a little provision where he'll probably be able to do more stuff with NBC. I know he did a lot of their Olympics coverage last summer in Paris. So he might be able to do a little bit more of that. I'm sure they beef up his money as well. I know he
yes.
Bit, so
no, you were.
Yeah. So I'm sure he'll be just fine.
Yeah. All right, take us home.
You can find LaKeena McGee on the Twitter X, Akira's again the IG.
You can follow your Shirley Sidney Brown on the Twitter X and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, SIDKID80, SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms. Please subscribe to our podcast. We're located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are off this Monday celebrating the holiday with you, but with just a friendly reminder, please tune in to Second City Sports Live in living color every Monday, except for this Monday. Every Monday, every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports Live in the living color every Monday, except for this Monday for the holiday, and every Friday from 12:15 to 2:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
Now, of course, you won't get if you're gonna miss us this Monday. Don't worry, you can catch replays of our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Fellows, and so much more on anytime, anywhere on the Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook and YouTube channels. And again, anytime, anywhere, Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook, YouTube channels, and catch replays of all our great content. It's all right there for you. So if you do miss us this Monday, don't worry, you can still catch us anytime, anywhere on Facebook and YouTube.
And we will provide one more quick note, LaKeena, for those of you watching us live, LIVE live here in Chicago. Tomorrow, May 24th, the Rangers will take on the Chicago White Sox at 3:10 p.m. on the south side. But before that, 3 hours before, in Lot B, is Whiskey at Comiskey, tailgate number 2. Yours surely is going to be there. I'm going to try to get LaKeena out there for one of these tailgates before the year is out. But tomorrow, May 24th, at high noon, we'll have Whiskey at Comiskey, tailgate number 2. White Sox Twitter will be there. The guys and gals from the Chicago Sports Buns will be there. Section 108 will be there. Yours surely is going to be there. We may have a celebrity guest or two. We don't know. But get your butts down there tomorrow. High noon at Sox Park at Lot B. Don't meet us there. Beat us there.
All right. And of course, we want to thank our buddy Matt Zahn from CBS 2 Chicago, the sports anchor reporter there, for joining us, and his dog today with us on the show. Of course, you can catch him this weekend. Of course, every weekend, of course, you can catch him on CBS 2 Chicago. Whether you air live here in Chicago, or if you have Samsung TV, you can watch it on Samsung TV Plus for free. So you can catch him and all the great talented people at CBS 2 Chicago right there.
And his dog is a big Tim Elko fan. Love it.
Yes, he does. He loves. Oh yeah. He made his feelings known about him being sit down. So So you got an ally there, Sid.
Yes. Love it. That's why you tune into Second City Sports. Unpredictability. That's what we do. We do it well.
All right, enjoy. Well, we'll be previewing some finals or NBA or Stanley Cup final matchups coming up by the time we get back on Friday. Next Friday, we'll see. And of course, enjoy that. Of course, all the baseball. I got WNBA coverage. This week, I know Sky has a couple of games. I think this game's not till till like Monday or Sunday or Monday, I think. So you can catch that as well. So of course, remembering some of the people who sacrificed their lives. Of course, it's Memorial Day weekend, like Sid said earlier. Remember what this day is really about. So also think a soldier. Not just Monday, but every day. So
yes.
All right.
If we have any breaking news, we'll be back sooner. If not, we'll be back next Friday, May 30th.
All right. So with that said, for Sid, I'm LaKeena. This is Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago, and we'll see you guys sometime next week.
Go Sox! Holla!